Welcome to the Bison Brothers Basketball Podcast, your number one home for all things Bison basketball. My name is Chip Washington, your self-appointed Bison basketball fanatic. And we got my man E. Wash getting ready to introduce himself as he is looking very, very intrigued as we're going on here. Let me pause it for a second. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, what's up? This is E-Wash with the Perpetual Basketball Jones. Great to see everybody. How you doing?
Indeed. Always good to see you, my Bison and blood brother. So, Bison Nation. Indeed. Bison Nation, we got another treat for you today. And before we get to our guests who we're going to interview today, we want to continue to remind everybody to support these championship teams, support the Dream Factory. You can do that in so many ways. You can give to the MEAC Society. That is Howard's Name, Image, and Likeness Collective. You can do that by going to the MEACasociety.org. You can also donate at hubison.com directly to the athletics department or through the Bison Express Booster Club. And as always, you can interact with us on Instagram at Bison Brothers Basketball. And please continue to tell everybody about this show, because this show is for Bison Nation, is for you. You can hear this podcast so many places. You can hear us on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple. And like I said, you can interact with us on Instagram at Bison Brothers Basketball. Well, today, y'all, I am excited about the next guest. Kobe Dickson, former Bison baller. He's the definition of brains, buckets, and bold moves. From the Ivy League to an HBCU powerhouse, Kobe Dickson is and was not your average big man. He played at Cornell University and then transferred to Howard University. He was the definition of a student athlete. After 3 seasons in the Ivy League, Kobe made a bold move transferring to Howard to embrace a bigger role and represent something greater than himself. At Howard, he brought grit, leadership, and an elite IQ to a Bison team on the rise, helping us to win a MEAC Championship and earn an NCAA tournament berth in 2023. But Kobe's story didn't stop at March Madness. He took his talents global after signing with Delta Gurjani in the Georgian Superliga, becoming a force overseas, and now he currently plays for a New York City streetball team sponsored by Hoop Fuel Nutrition. So now, as a professional athlete, he's proven that hoops and intellect can coexist and thrive on any continent. Kobe is a hybrid talent built for the moment and built to inspire the next generation of athletes. So Bison Nation, as we bring Kobe to the stage, and I know he's going to recognize this tune as we bring him, let's give him a warm Showtime welcome to the Bison Brothers Basketball Podcast. Hey, there he is. Yeah. Do you miss that?
Yeah, and I got to give you props for the intro. I don't think I could have written it better myself.
All good, man.
Yeah.
So, man, hey,
he got flavor in him. He's a hype man.
Hey, like I said, we hype, man. I was so excited to, when I reached out to you, because, for us, man, that 2023, that run was just beyond special. So, I mean, it's probably the reason why we have the podcast today, because of the special thing that y'all did, man. So I can't wait to really get into it. And so, I'll start with just a broad question. and just kind of ask you about your hoops journey. Like, when did you fall in love with basketball, and when did you know I'm that dude and I could go far in this game?
Yeah, that's a great starter. I would say probably have had a basketball in my hand since I could walk. I was named after Kobe Bryant, so I've just always carried that mentality with me everywhere I went. I was named after one of the greats, so I just wanted to chase that. I've been playing like recreational travel ball pretty much since 5. Shout out to my parents for driving me to all those tournaments and all my games and things of that nature. But yeah, I think it really started clicking for me around the 8th grade, maybe freshman year. Whenever I caught my dunk that first summer, I was like, okay, I'm starting to develop the skills where like the next level might be a real possibility for me. And then, I got my first D1 offer my sophomore year of high school. So then it was like, oh yeah, like there's more I want to go get. So, stayed true to school all during that time. I knew that I probably wouldn't be high major, so I knew I wanted to go somewhere academic. Cornell thankfully recruited me really hard. Had some other interests from some other Ivies, but no one really gave me the attention and support that Cornell gave me. Their coaches flew out all the way to Kansas, so really meant a lot to me in the recruitment process. And then yeah, you said the rest after that.
Okay. So from playing, I guess in the Ivy League, and then coming to the MEAC, how was that transition? How would you compare Ivy League hoops to MEAC hoops?
Yeah, I would say Ivy League hoops are super tactical. Every team is trying to back cut, get an edge, like however they can, whatever defensive scheme they can draw up. Things of that nature. It's a lot more tactical game, I would say. And then, transitioning to the MEAC, it was like something I'd never experienced before. It's literally just like, can you guard and can you get a bucket? And I really like that because, it challenged me and, made me work on areas of my game, maybe where I didn't have to work while I was at Cornell. So it was a really interesting difference, and something I still see watching both of the leagues today.
And
Well,
so go ahead.
Jump in for that makes me wonder, are the rivalries the same? Because when you start talking about back cutting, it made me think of Princeton, and I'm not trying to crunch no toes, but that sounds like Princeton offense.
Yeah. So the funny thing, my head coach at Cornell, Brian Earl, he was a Princeton graduate. He played basketball there, Ivy League Player of the Year, all that good stuff. He actually coached at Princeton before coming to Cornell, so we got a lot of their offensive concepts mixed into ours.
Okay.
My freshman and sophomore year, we still ran like the old school Princeton offense, and we didn't play.
Okay.
We didn't play my junior year because of COVID. And then senior year, we switched up our offensive scheme. Still kept like the back cuts and elements of that, but we played a lot faster, a lot more aggressive.
Well, see, that leads to another DMV question then. Did he have a John Thompson III connect?
That I don't know off the top of my head. I wouldn't be able to answer that.
Okay, because he coached there at Georgetown.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I wouldn't know the answer to that.
And so I guess the good transition question would be then, so what was the appeal? Like, how did the Howard thing happen? What can you tell Bison Nation about how you ended up going from Cornell to Howard?
Yeah, so I had an extra year because of COVID, and I definitely wanted to use it somewhere. I had, a lot of coaches calling me, texting me once I put my name in the portal. But I think it was Coach Blakeney and how attentive he was to like building our relationship. Like he would just text me, call me whenever. Coach Ty, I know he moved on to Duke, but he was also a big part in getting me to Howard. And it was just like the kind of relationship they built with me before I had even stepped on campus. It was like I felt like I had already known them for years.
Okay.
And I think that's a testament to the kind of coach that KB is. Like he makes all his players like feel really supported. And he's going to push you, of course, but like he wants to see the best come out of us. And I think that was really the thing that drew me to come to Howard.
Okay. So now we interviewed Coach Steve Ongley a few weeks back, and he told us kind of about like practice being intense. Like, what do you remember? Like, how different, was practice from, say, Cornell? It seems like it's sort of legendary when it comes to practice.
Yeah. Howard's practices were like nothing I had ever experienced before in my life. KB likes to have them first thing in the morning. At Cornell, we never had morning practices. We always had the afternoon. So that was definitely a transition for me, getting used to waking up early in the morning. And then I think the intensity of practices was different too, because like you start out at Howard and, you're having to guard for 30 minutes playing one-on-one first thing in the morning as soon as you wake up. So it's just like things like that. Just the mental aspects of it too. Like, you're tired, you like got to get stops. And it's going to be hard first thing in the morning. I think it's our ability to be able to, push through that and still have good practices that allowed us to see the success that we did.
Okay. And I'm going to ask this on behalf of Brian, who's not here today, because I remember that season, and I can't remember if KB did it before, but that was the first time I kind of saw that hockey shift. That five in, 5 out. Brian at the time he wasn't a fan, but I loved it. What was that? Was that kind of your first time being a part of a hockey shift thing? And
no, actually, I was actually really used to it because that's the way we ran our offense at Cornell. We did some of the same hockey shifts, 5 in, 5 out. And I think it worked really well for us my season at Howard, just because our second squad probably could have been starting at D1. A lot of other D1s across the country. You had me, Lonnie, Khalil Robertson, Bryce coming off the bench. Like that's a squad that could bump with really any other mid-major in the country. So I think just being able to have that come off our bench, like gave us an edge that a lot of the other teams in the league didn't have.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Nah. Like I said, I have the same. I had the same sentiment. I was like, this interchangeable. Like we coming in waves. So now it was a pleasure to see. I guess let's see. What would you say? How would you describe your welcome to the HBCU basketball moment? Like,
I think it was MLK Day when we had Morehouse and people were like standing up in the aisles and like standing up above the court. Standing wherever they could get into the gym, they were just standing and like just being there for that, seeing like the band, the crowd all be so into the game and like every song, like they were dancing and like I came from Cornell. I'd never seen like a fraternity or sorority like step during like a game. So like I was there in the timeouts and I was looking around and I was like, this is like nothing I've ever seen before. And obviously we were up a lot in the game, so I could kind of take in the environment a little bit more, not trying to knock Morehouse or anything. We just, had a lead. So I just like looked around and I was like, this is something unlike anything I've ever experienced.
Yes. Yeah. Nothing like the bird, the campus jumping. And full disclosure, Eric actually went to Morehouse for undergrad. And so of course, they beat us last year, which was like, we wasn't expecting it. So we had to eat a little crow on the next show after they won. So we'll continue to give you a shout out, Ewash.
Yeah. And I wasn't trying to gloat or anything. I was just trying to explain to my fellow co-hosts that, you just can't dismiss them out of hand, because they actually have a basketball legacy themselves. They've been to the Final Four and D2, so yeah, that's all it was.
Yeah. That's another, I guess you could call it like a dangerous thing by playing like down below D1. Like a lot of players have like a relaxed mentality towards it. And if you have that, and then it's going to be a dogfight of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now I'm gonna steal one of Eric's questions that we've asked other folks who've transferred before, what could Howard have done anything to get you coming out of high school? Like, did you know about it? Was there anything that could have been done?
If we're going to be honest, I didn't even know what an HBCU was coming out of high school. I grew up in rural Kansas. Like, I didn't even really know what an Ivy League school was until I started getting recruited by them. So I don't know in my case if there's anything they could have done, but I mean, like, maybe brand. I mean, it seems like everywhere else besides Kansas, everyone knows the Howard brand. So yeah, maybe just like more outreach in like the Midwestern part of the country, because it seems like both of the coasts, know Howard pretty well.
Yeah,
appreciate that. Yeah. Appreciate keeping it real.
and so Stan, well, actually, let me see. I'm gonna ask you just kind of a KB question. Can you give us any behind the scenes moments with Coach Blakeney that fans never really get to see?
Maybe just like how much he cared for us, I guess, was the thing that really surprised me behind the scenes. Like, a lot of coaches can show it, but like, people had like losses in the family. We're just going through tough times, and every time something like that happened, KB was one of the people on the front line, offering like anything we needed to like help us get through whatever we were going through, and just like show that he cared more than just being our coach. I think that's something that a lot of people might not see just watching from the stands.
Yeah. And, we've interviewed a few like DMV high school coaches, and they all said the same thing, but in terms of their relationship with KB. So it really speaks to, he just won an award, an alumni award, again, just for being kind of, that staunch person that he is. So definitely could see that. Appreciate you sharing that. Since you guys seem to have some characters on that team that you were on, what was, say, your wildest or funniest road trip story that you had with that squad?
I'll try to keep it safe, not out anyone. But I don't know. I would just say, like, every road trip or every time we were traveling and it was just us, like, we had some funny dudes on the team. Like, you had Doc, Elijah, Shy, like, all those guys could cut up. We just enjoyed spending time with each other, I think. Always team dinners and everything like that. We were hardly looking at our phones. I think we like had a rule or something where we can't go on our phones. So it just, allowed us to get a lot closer, and just, build that chemistry as a team off the court.
Okay. And so tell us a little about, I feel like Bison Nation kind of wants to know, like I said, because that 2023 run was so special, when, and then when did y'all kind of get the sense like this may be a special season?
Yeah, I mean, I think we had that 8 or 9 game win streak in conference play that really showed us where we was like, okay, we're the best team in this league. Like, we shouldn't be losing any of these games. But I mean, throughout the whole course of the season, it seemed like, everything was going wrong till it went right. There's just like our battles off the court. We're dropping games against teams that, we should beat by 20, and just like things like that, where it's like, geez, are we really going to like be able to pull this out? But I think that, once we made the tournament and, blew through the first couple of games, we're like, all right, we're meant to be here. Like, this is like something that we've worked hard for and we're going to go get.
Okay. All right. And so tell me about that Kansas game, because I was there. Brian was there. I was there. That was, I don't know. Could you tell that Bison Nation was behind you?
Yeah. No, could definitely tell there were a lot of Bison in the stands. It was a big game for me too. I mean, I grew up a Kansas fan. It was the closest game I had played to home in 4 years of college basketball, or no, I guess 5 years technically. So anyone and everyone that could make it to that game was there. I think I had something like 40, 45 family members there. So just seeing that in combination with like the support of Bison Nation, it was like something really special for me and kind of a full circle moment, playing my childhood favorite team in the last game of my career.
Yeah. Yeah. And I thought y'all were going to pull it out, and because I believe y'all had the lead up, partly in the first half, I believe it was. So
yeah, I think we might have had it there for a little bit, but it was a tough squad to go up against.
So I guess when it comes to the Power 5 schools, what's something that people don't realize about the talent, both say in Power 5 and the MEAC?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely levels to the game of basketball. And I mean, even in the MEAC, like a random guy off the street isn't going to be able to beat the guy on the end of our bench. Like as much trash as people talk about like bench players and like the lower leagues and things like that, it's like we're still great players. And I mean, in terms of us, going up against Power 5 teams, I felt like we were pretty matched up on paper. We had height. We had the shooting, we had everything like that. They just, I guess, made more plays. Like there's nothing really to it. In the moment, like that's just how the games go sometimes.
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, like I said, we were beyond excited. And in your honor, this is the March Madness shirt from Iowa. So I had to rock it, had to pull it out for your interview. So all good, man. So tell us a little bit about kind of what after Howard looks like. Like, what did you do kind of right after graduation?
Yeah, so I mean, I wasn't even planning on playing professional basketball. I had already, gotten a job offer accepted, was like making arrangements to move to Denver. So I was probably, I want to say, a month out from my move in like July, and I got a DM from an agent, and he's like, "Hey, have you been staying in shape? Have you been like hooping?" And I was like, "Yeah, I still haven't like been able to put it down yet. It's still like something I'm pretty passionate about." And he's like, "All right, I have an opportunity for you." And I was like, "All right, let's do it." So I signed with my agent. I think signed with the team that next week, and quit or rescinded my offer acceptance and went through all that process.
Okay.
And I shipped out that August. So it was kind of a last minute thing, but I don't think I would have been able to live with myself if I didn't, take that opportunity. Just because, it was a childhood dream of mine to play professional basketball. So I just had to go and see what it could get me.
Okay. And how tough was the league out there? From the few snippets that I've seen, it as they say, it looked like a grown man's game.
It is
out there. So
yeah,
how was it like playing in that league?
It definitely was. Yeah, I mean, even though it was a smaller country, still a really great league, really competitive. Especially added on not really understanding everything that my coach says, like just like having to adjust to another new style of play. It was a great experience. Something I'll remember.
Did you run into how many players that you knew were in your league? Any former competitors in playing in that league?
No one I had ever played. My roommate actually, he went to another HBCU, Mississippi Valley State. Yeah, so it was both of us over there, and yeah, we had some good success. We were first in the league at one point, so yeah, really competitive. But we had a really good coach and a really good squad, so it ended up being a really enjoyable experience.
Okay. Now I know we both talked pre-show about the New York experience. I really want to get into that. So how did the New York street team come together? Can you tell Bison Nation about that story?
Yeah. So I mean, I haven't touched a ball in a while. I would say that, or before accepting to play in this league, I hadn't touched a ball in a while. I would say that was probably around February or March. And then I think end of March, I get a DM from the founder of Hoopfeel, and he was just gathering up a lot of Ivy guys, kind of just guys around that have hooped in New York, maybe not hoop so much anymore. And he invited me to come run with him for a practice or two. So I did that, ended up being a pretty good experience. And yeah, now we're playing in, I think, 6 or 7 different leagues across New York City. We're playing at the Rucker. We're playing at Zone 6 in Brooklyn, Lower East Side. I know they have a team. I'm not on the team that's playing at West 4th, but they have a team there. But yeah, playing in a lot of the historical basketball courts, it's been a really great experience so far. Definitely another different style of play, way more grittier. Refs, probably aren't going to call anything for us. So definitely been some more adjusting in that.
Yeah. Now, what about former competitors in that league? Anybody that especially I guess since it's a lot of Ivy League. And how did he come to kind of pick Ivy Leaguers?
Yeah, that's actually something I should probably ask him. But I know there's a couple guys from Yale that I'm playing with, a guy from Columbia, and then others are just mixed around. I know we got a couple guys from Davidson, and just schools like that. But why he picked Ivy Leaguers, that's probably a good question. He probably knew we were all working 9 to 5s and probably hated our jobs, wanted to get back to hooping. So, gave us a good outlet.
Okay. So I kind of want to switch gears a little bit, and I want to kind of dive into you in general, especially with the NCAA house settlement that just passed, and get into this whole NIL era, because you were kind of right there in the beginning, as that was starting. I guess first, are you able to benefit from that, or?
I think I might get a little bit back. I think it was still after me where like the real money was being made that they're paying back. But I don't know. We'll see. I put in for the class action lawsuit, so we'll see. If the check is my bank or anything like that.
Because I've definitely thought about especially that squad, because I can't remember how far it goes back, but I was hoping, man, like I said, for all the contributions that that y'all made to the Bison Nation and MEAC, just the impact.
I think I left right before the whole NIL wave started. I probably made $200 off NIL, got some like free care packages from some brands, but yeah, I don't think it really like started up the way it is today until after I left.
Mm-hmm. And so, do you have any thoughts in general? Part of the what we're trying to do in the off season here with the podcast is make sure Howard fans kind of know the landscape and how we can get better, because clearly KB's got a vision for the team, and it seems to be executing it. What are your thoughts on is the college basketball landscape headed in a good direction, and can Howard benefit, or just kind of what are your thoughts in general?
Yeah, it's definitely a complicated environment. I would say that it's good that the players are getting paid. Although, I can't say I agree with, players getting their paycheck and then bouncing, the year after. I wouldn't be opposed to, seeing something like the NBA where it's contracts saying, hey, you'll get this amount of NIL money if you stay here for like 2 or 3 years. But if you leave, you only get like what you stayed for. So I definitely think like more regulation needs to be had, because I don't know. It's not insane to me that the players are making millions. I think they're worth it. I just think that a lot of players are taking opportunities of like the NIL collectives, or taking advantage of the opportunities with NIL collectives and, getting paid right up front, and then, not living up to their commitment on their end. But I definitely do think that the players should be getting their fair share.
I know Jay Will and say like Rick Pitino, they kind of made some comments about, NIL and this pay for play is going to be the death of mid-majors, and high school athletes won't really get a shot. what do you have to say to those thoughts? Do you think there's some legitimacy there, or?
I think there's a little bit of legitimacy because like the players are, or not all the players, but a lot of the players are going to go where the paycheck is the most, where they're getting the most bread. So I definitely think like maybe like top talent you might see leaving mid majors, but I don't think it's the death of them by any means because there's still a lot of great players in mid major basketball and a lot of great coaches. So I think they'll still be able to compete with the high majors and buy games, playing games whenever they might see them. But yeah, I mean, it definitely makes it tough when schools are raking in millions, maybe even billions from athletics, and there's like mid majors like us where like people are buying tickets, but it's nothing to where like it could be something profitable to pay the players.
Mm-hmm. And have you? I remember you coming back. I guess that next year, when the team was making a run. How would you describe the brotherhood? Like how do you stay plugged in? How would you describe that Bison brotherhood?
Yeah, I would definitely say it's a pretty tight knit brotherhood. I'm gonna have some opportunity to see some of the guys I was at Howard with this summer. So I'm excited about that. And then Jelani, he lives in New York City too, so I'll see him like once or twice a month, somewhere around there. He's my roommate at Howard, so we always like to just like kick it, talk about old times, things like that. But yeah, I mean, just being back, like it was crazy the amount of love that I still had there. Like I didn't think that people would remember me like that. So it was definitely a humbling feeling to still have people, hold me in that regard.
Mm. If and like I said, that's why we wanted you on the show. I mean, your impact was you can't put it into words. So and you're always welcome to come back if you want to come back and tell some more about kind of what's going on and things of that nature. You're always welcome to come back to the show. So definitely wanted to say that. If in terms of your legacy at Howard, how would you want Bison fans and future players to remember Kobe Dickson's time at Howard?
Ooh, that's a good one. Probably just a team guy. I felt like the whole season and all of my decisions, everything that I did was in the best interest of the team and to see everyone else succeed. Like, I dropped out of the starting lineup. I could have easily gotten my own head about that, but I wanted to win more than anything and bring a championship to Howard. So, I embraced my role with the second squad. And like you said, we were a damn good second squad. So, just like, yeah, I just want to be remembered as like a program guy just because I cared about it that much. And like, I just did a lot of things to kind of push us in the way or push us on the way to getting that win.
Gotcha. And Eric, I don't want to steal all of the questions. I know you had a few. If you want to get some.
You see how he asked me 30 minutes later, Coach?
Hey, you can jump in. And
that's family. That's family, Kobe. Oh, wow. Kind of, I was just listening, to be honest with you. I kind of lost my train of thought. Well, you touched on a couple of things. What I like that I'm hearing from you is that, well, here's the thing that I sort of came up with when I was doing my research about you. I thought about, how NIL affects things and, how it affects team chemistry. And I thought about Pat Riley, of all people, because somebody asked him, when he put it out there that the Lakers were going to repeat, and someone asked him later on, well, what would be a reason or what are the challenges that keeps a team from repeating after they've had success? And, you've had success, so you could probably speak to that. He said it's the disease of me. Now people getting interviews that wasn't getting interviews before. And now the car dealership is asking so-and-so, and the 12th man is getting more girls and blah, 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 and all that, So I kind of wonder, and you kind of touched on some of it already. How do you think, for example, to hopefully not bring up a sore subject, and it kind of ties into what he was asking you earlier about, what Howard could do different. I think about, because we off air, we talk about, what happened with Blake and whatever this new thing that's coming up to sort of level the playing field of being able to incentivize players individually if you don't have deep pockets to sort of help the team. Do you think it would affect the locker room, if one person was getting more money than the other person, which I think is already happening? How do you think that would affect the locker room in a college environment versus a pro environment, since you've played pro ball and college ball?
Yeah, I mean, definitely in the college environment, just because it's a room full of 18 to 22-year-olds. If they know that someone else is making more money than them, they'll obviously probably feel the type of way. I think it was a good thing that we weren't getting NIL money or anything, because it was just all of us going through all that tough stuff together, and we were all just brought together by the literal grind of it. There was no money incentives or anything above that for us to really play other than wanting to win. But I mean, in the pro locker room, it's kind of just more business, because we don't really negotiate the contracts. Obviously, we can, say hey, this doesn't look good or this doesn't, but it's our agents negotiating the dollar amount and talking to the teams where they know that we'll probably have success. So it's more of just hey, this is the situation and this is what they're paying me for it. It's not this dude shouldn't be making this much. We know we're all there to keep our job and play well together, because right. If we don't, then they'll just send us all home.
Yeah. So see, you sound like the type of person that likes the game for the game's sake, right? And I think that's what's going to continue to attract people to it. So, I start thinking of players that, at least from an NBA standpoint, I feel like people were drawn to the game because of their enthusiasm for the game, and the money sort of became secondary. And so the people that pop in my mind is Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Mike. I would say, no shade to LeBron, but I would say Steph Curry. And in an even more modern sense, I would say Anthony Edwards. He seems to have an enthusiasm that makes you want to watch. Is that something you agree with?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's definitely guys in the NBA that are just there to get a paycheck. They know that, they have natural talent and everything like that. But I would say a majority of NBA players do love playing basketball.
Okay.
Yeah. Just based off of, my watching.
Okay. Yeah. Now, since you're from Kansas, man, speaking of, sort of hoop consigliere, if you will, I'm sure you know who James Naismith is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and it's we have to hang our hat on Kansas.
Yeah, right. And his tree starts off through Kansas. You know what I mean? So Fog Allen, Wilt Chamberlain played for Kansas, but does Kansas have the kind of hoop hysteria, let's say, like a state like Indiana is known for, or New York City? Do you think Kansas has a hoop in their DNA like that, given their association with the game that's so organic?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. I would say it's one of the more underrated states for basketball talent. There's a lot of good young guys coming up right now, guys that have entered college after I left. Not sure if you guys are familiar with Mark Mitchell. He played for Missouri last season. I don't know where he's at this season, but I got the chance to see him when he was an 8th grader in Kansas City, and I thought he was like a senior in high school at that point. So just like guys like that, that's probably more like towards the Kansas City area. But even where I'm from in Western Kansas, there's still a lot of D1 talent. Guys that have made was at the D1 level.
Okay.
Yeah. So something else I want to ask you again on locker room chemistry and your journey, man. I was kind of looking through your bio, and one of the things that I admired is, you seem to have a lot of accolades through your career. But when I looked, I never said to myself, hey, man, he seems like he's never been a 20-point scorer, but he's been an all-state player. He seems like unless I, didn't take a deep enough dive, like you've never been the leading scorer on any given team, but you seem to keep impacting the game. So, how did that happen?
Yeah, I don't know. Just my style of play, I think it's pretty unique. I'm not like a traditional, like sit on the block big, need to like have the ball in the post every single possession. Like I can make, good passes and play make for myself. A lot of the offense at both of the spots ran through me, at different points. And I think just, kind of just like the soft skills of like being in that position. Like I was a captain at Cornell and Howard. It's pretty rare. Yeah, it's pretty rare to see a player be elected captain at, 2 different D1 universities. So, I think my ability to impact the game on and off the court has kind of led me to get those accolades.
Okay. That's pretty cool, man. That's pretty cool. So, we always see, and that's the type of thing in my mind, even as I'm watching the playoffs now, we have a segment called What's Good for Basketball. See, people like you, to me, and the way you play, and the fact that you were able to see young people need to hear stuff like this to me in the game. The fact that you're able to elevate yourself that way through, corny as it might sound, playing the right way and winning, that shows you that the game makes room for everybody, and I think more people need to see that, and that's part of the reason I'm kind of low key hoping the Pacers win.
I can't do that to my Midwest team. I grew up a Thunder fan, so I can't claim them. I can't claim them anymore because I haven't cheered for them in so long. But it'd still be nice to see them win.
Yeah. I ain't got nothing against them. It's just. Which to another question that I wanted to ask you. So, because you've played overseas, right? Have you seen this documentary that the Obamas did about Olympic basketball?
No, I haven't seen that. What is it on Netflix?
It's on Netflix. Yeah. And so one of the things when I saw, speaking of OKC, I saw Kevin Durant. They were interviewing him about how he felt kind of getting up for things and that kind of stuff. And of course, because it was USA basketball, they kind of had a target on their back. But what I sort of low key kept picking up was there sort of seems like there's an undercurrent of, because so many of the MVPs lately have been international players, and everybody got a podcast now, and when you hear the American players talking, they seem like they throw a little shade at Joker, or they throw a little shade at Shea. You know what I'm saying? And it just makes you go, I sort of understand where some of it's coming from, but do you feel like as an American player overseas, you was getting any of that shade?
No, I definitely, didn't get any shade or really get treated any different because of like being an American. It was more just like being on the opposite team. I would say like it's extremely competitive overseas. Everyone's grinding for the next contract. So I think the games are just competitive because of that nature. But there's no like American comments or anything like that whenever we were playing. Yeah.
Okay. Do you see the USA basketball losing the next Olympics, or?
I wouldn't see it. I know the rest of the world is coming up, but we're still really extremely talented as a country.
Yeah. But they have had some teams with talent that lost too, though.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I don't know. Just with the players we have, the young guys that we have in the NBA right now, it'd be hard to see.
And so one of the things that stood out to me was, for them to be dependent on LeBron and Steph Curry, who do you see on the horizon that's under 25 that would be filling up or playing a major role in USA basketball in the next Olympics?
Yeah, I mean, you got guys like Ant, Paolo.
Yeah, okay.
Who else? Cooper Flagg. He was giving the USA team buckets in their mini camps. So I mean, there's a lot of young talent that we have, coming up, and I think they've just been waiting for a shot. I can't see like LeBron or Steph playing in the next Olympics. I think this is kind of their like last hurrah, get a chance to play with each other. But I think the young guys will be able to start making a name for themselves in these next, couple of Olympics.
Okay, so I get scared every time I start thinking about this question or to ask this question, but the more I dig into it, the more I feel like, even with all of my biases, meaning I'm from Chicago, I was a North Carolina fan. No shade to Coach KB, but Duke, right? So to me, do you really think there's a real argument that LeBron is the GOAT over Mike?
And there's only one right answer. But go ahead, Kobe.
I don't think there's
named after Kobe too, but no pressure.
I don't think there is an argument for LeBron not being the GOAT, honestly.
Oh wow!
I mean, if you want to bring championships into it, then like Bill Russell should be the GOAT. Like, you can't pull rings for one player and not for the other. In terms of like individual accolades, LeBron's gotten beat in every statistical category at this point. So I don't know. If you want to hang it on rings, and you got to do it for everyone, but I didn't
mention rings, but
it's usually the default that people go to. So I just always like to start with that.
Okay. Well, I won't dip into my whole propaganda bag right now. I'm not even going to mention the fact that I'm not mistaken. I think you got on an Air Jordan shirt right now, don't you? Or no?
Yeah.
Okay. So there we go. All right, so, when I say it, because I go back and forth with my kids about this all the time too. And again, in the spirit of good for basketball, and it's kind of fun as long as people don't take it too serious. But I guess I'm always amazed at how, to be honest with you, maybe it's because of my age or whatever it is, how easily Mike is dismissed. It's just amazing to me. I don't know. I guess especially by basketball players.
No, and don't get me wrong, like Mike's still a great player, and there's people that are my age that think the same way that you do. But I guess just in my own personal,
you don't ever hear from them though.
Yeah, I guess just like in my own personal opinion, like I grew up watching LeBron and like seeing him play. So I think it just like cemented him, like seeing all the things that he's done in his career.
Okay. So now we're just gonna take your whole Howard legacy. Now we're just gonna chip away at it. You're doing so good. Doing so good up until now, but that's okay. That's okay.
Well, so I try not to be the bitter old guy always hanging on to my stuff. So,
so even though you're about to lead the young people astray with that answer, I'll still follow up with this question. What's one message that you would hope to leave for younger players that are watching your journey?
Yeah, just, never stop believing in yourself, because like, all the odds were against me growing up. Like, I'm from a town of, a couple thousand. High school was like 200. I didn't play on like any of the big name AAU teams or anything like that. I didn't average like crazy numbers, but if you stay true to the work, stay true to school, and really just love the game and, play as hard as you can every single possession, like you'll end up where you want to go. Just keeping that mentality took me places I would have really never even imagined growing up. You know, I would have had no idea that I did the things I did if you would have asked me, you know, say 10 years ago. So, you know, just keep your nose down, grind, like, and it'll all work itself out if you put the work in.
All right.
Yeah. Great message, man. That's a great message. You seem like a stand-up guy, man.
Appreciate that.
And so now with that great message, I've got a reputation here. I don't know how I've gotten it to ask some messy questions, playfully messy questions. But going back to your 2023,
he's adopted, just so you know.
Going back to those practices, who were you giving the business to in practice?
Oh, wow. That's definitely. Now, we went through all this stuff about team chemistry and staying together and don't let the money. Well, it's always one, ain't it? It's always one.
And look, I'll do it balanced. And who gave you the business?
Yeah, I mean, definitely all the bigs. Like, if they had to guard me in the post, they were probably gonna have nightmares after practice. But I mean, saying that, like, any of our guards really, or anyone that had some perimeter play, like, they're all so good. Like, it was tough to guard them as like a 6'9" center. So just like being out on the perimeter is my worst nightmare too.
And see, you really don't have to answer that question. You know, it's not Black History Month or anything, but you know, this is why we can't rise as a people when Chip asks questions like that.
We've had some great moments asking that question with some other people, and so you just never know. I always got to get it in. So trying to guard Elijah. Yeah, good luck. Right.
There's no way I was staying in front of him.
Indeed. Well, hey, Kobe, you know, like I said, we got a short amount of time with you, man. We really, really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your story, so Bison Nation can get to know you even more after all the love that we have for you coming out of the 2023 season. So again, thank you for coming, and we're going to end this show like we end all of our shows. And I know since you've been, wait, before I end it, sounds like Ewash has a question.
I'm sorry. I got one more question. I just want to know if you're open to being brainwashed about Mike. If I jump on your social media and start giving you some stuff that might change your mind, we're going to change one mind at a time.
Okay. Well, I mean, reverse question. Would you be open for me sending you LeBron clips that might send you the other way?
Absolutely. And I've probably seen them all. I have a retinue of things already to knock them down. But yes, absolutely.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see this social media battles. It's all good. Bison Nation, Kobe Dickson, we enjoyed having you. Bison Nation, tell us in the comments how much you enjoyed the interview. And like I said, we'll end this show like we always do. You know.